welcome to Nightwear Weekend Richmond. How's the day been going so far?
Very well.
Oh, good. We'll take it. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. So, like I said, this is audience participation. Start thinking about your questions now. But I kind of want to start. I want to know, and I already know your story a little bit, Nick, but I want to know about all three of your relationships with John Carpenter and when you guys first met him, and also, Sandy, how you got involved working with the film as well.
Well, I met John Carpenter at the interview for the job, which was taking place in one of the houses while they were filming other scenes. So that was my introduction. And then, of course, I was hired as Judith, and I came back and worked with him all day. And that was pretty much my relationship with him until I saw him again, I believe, at the premiere of 2018 at the cast party. So that was my time with John. Well, wait, there was one other, I forgot. I did a panel with him 2 years ago, I think, at Steel City Con, and it was just John and I. And I was a little bit intimidated, we could say. I just thought, oh my gosh, it's just the two of us. But actually, he was amazing. He was so good to me and didn't make me feel awkward, so it's all good.
How much time do we have? John and I go back to childhood.
I love it.
We grew up in the same small college town in southern Kentucky, and we knew of each other all through grade school, but didn't become close until we became teenagers. And I discovered, we both played in the orchestra. John played violin, I played trombone of all damn things. And well, on some orchestra trip, playing in some faraway place, I realized John was in the back of the bus with about 14 girls clustered around him, and he had a guitar. And he was playing some folk song or something, and I thought, man, this is interesting. I think I'll go get in on this. I knew how to harmonize, so pretty soon I'm harmonizing on vocals, all in amongst all these girls, and thought, yeah, this is good. This is good. Anyway, we became close friends, formed a folk trio, then formed a rock and roll band. John knew all along he wanted to be a film director. I kind of helped him pick out USC Cinema as the place to go. And after my stint in art school, I joined him out there, where I met Mr. Castle, also an alum of USC Cinema. And basically all of us, one way or another, got involved with John's early pictures, helping out the way you do when you're doing student films and it's all out of the back of your car and Scotch tape and chewing gum. And we went from there.
So the band that you mentioned, was that the Coupe DeVilles with our good friend Nick?
That came later. The first band was John, me, and John's girlfriend, Elizabeth. We were Tomorrow's Children, huh? And then came Kaleidoscope, which introduced, if you had a rock and roll cover band in that part of the country, you had to do soul music, rhythm and blues, Motown, Stax, all the records that everybody danced to. But we were getting turned on to Jefferson Airplane and Jimi Hendrix and so forth. And so I guess we introduced psychedelia to Southern Kentucky. That was Kaleidoscope. And then somewhere after USC got going, John became popular with the other student filmmakers because he knew how to compose music. So he was getting gigs, you might say. And that's where I met Nick. We were both helping out on these projects, soundtrack projects for student films. And the three of us found that we enjoyed vocal harmony together. And so our famous group, famous because we wound up for, I think, 3 days in rotation on MTV with Big Trouble in Little China, which was the highlight of anybody's career, I'd say. And once in a while, would get together and sing, and mostly for our own amusement, or for friends at parties. And we hadn't gotten together in quite a while.
Well, you're all
but
here
the
this
legend
weekend.
lives on.
I mean, maybe this weekend we can hear some harmonies going on. Or?
Who knows?
Yeah, one of the fans came up to me and said, "Why isn't there a Coupe DeVilles photo op?"
That'd be cool.
And like you and John and Tommy, and I said, "Why don't we organize that?" And I said, "Well, organize it."
Go do that.
I think 4 or 5 people might show.
Yeah, I think
We
so.
don't know. So if you don't know, the Coupe DeVilles was the band that, as Tommy was saying, that we had a kind of vanity band that we did in the 80s, I believe.
We were not
Yeah.
running around getting gigs and
Yeah.
playing dances and stuff. We were just having fun.
But we did the title song for Big Trouble in Little China, which was a lot of fun. And we also, John at one point said, "We're going to do an album." And I said, "What do you mean we're doing it?" And he just staked the Coupe DeVilles to this album, vinyl, blister packed, got the photo session and everything to do the cover. And it exists today, as a vinyl thing that I think John has in storage and has threatened.
I've got a few
Threatened
myself.
to put it out on the market, but we'll see.
I wanted to know, Sandy, how did you prepare for your role of Judith? And the way that it's resonated with fans has to be so awesome for you to see. So what has that been like for you?
Well, I prepared for my role by thinking about the scariest things that had ever happened to me. And I took that with me upstairs and thought about that as I could hear them creaking up those stairs towards me.
Coming toward you.
Yes, that house was very old, and I could definitely kind of hear them coming up there, and I just kept thinking, oh my God, they're coming to kill me. I've always done comedy, and this is so different. So, yeah, it was scary for sure. So that was kind of, different. And yes, when I found out that I had fans all over the world, when my agent found me, I really thought he was joking. I thought the whole phone call from him was a joke. I just thought he was some weird guy that, I was playing Words with Friends with my best friend. I'm telling her, there's some weird guy, just texted me and asked if I was Sandy Johnson from Halloween, and I'm going who does this in the middle of the night? And it turns out, actually, he wasn't joking, and Rick Enrique is my agent, and I was totally amazed. He's been an amazing agent. I've been all over the world because of him and because of the franchise. So I'm very happy to be Michael's first kill.
What Sandy was hearing coming up the steps was like a herd of elephants. First was the camera in glide form, what's commonly now called a steady cam, with Ray Stella operating. And right next to Ray, with a light mounted on the camera, was Dean Cundy, the director of photography. He had the light on a dimmer, depending on whether he might be close to you. Turn it up a bit or turn it back down when you get too close to something else. That's the first 2 people around the camera. Then there was Deborah Hill in a clown costume because she was young Michael's hand reaching into the drawer. This was all done in one long shot, you see. I was there. You may not recall, but my job on that particular shot, I had a bucket of fake blood, and every time we came up to you, it was boom, boom, blood all over Sandy, like that. And people jumping in and out of windows to relight because we were going to retrace our steps through the house, you see, and the lighting needed to change when we came back downstairs. It was a very intricate shot. Took us all day to set it up. But I remember, it seems like I kept getting the blood in your eyes or something like that. We had to clean you up after. I think we did it 4 full takes. And in fact, the shot is not one continuous take. We used the best from 3 different takes and found a little spot to cut it together so it seems like it's one long shot.
So I saw a podcast I believe you did a couple years ago, Tommy, about how it was Sean Clark's podcast, and it was turning the mask into the mask for the shape. Where did this idea come from? It's genius.
Pure desperation. The script describes the mask just as a blank face, doesn't go into any great detail. This is a very low budget film. I guess we had $300,000 to do it, and doing it on film, kind of a TV schedule. I think we had 24 days or something. Might not have even been 24 days. But certainly not time to design a mask and to mold it and to go through research and development and all the rest, trying out different things. It was like, go find a blank face mask and, let's get going. And so I just went down to Hollywood Boulevard. There was a big, actually it's still there, the novelties company on Hollywood Boulevard. And they had probably a dozen, full head pullover masks. But most were really cartoonish. It was like Richard Nixon and John Wayne. And they just looked ridiculous. It was not going to work. Way off at the end was Mr. Spock, and then just past Mr. Spock was this blank face. And I looked, and of course it was supposed to be Captain Kirk. Didn't look really like Captain Kirk or William Shatner, but it looked like it might work. And so I grabbed that, and I grabbed a clown mask as well, because I thought we need a choice. We need an alternate in case this lays an egg. We need to be able to, fake it. And took them home. Didn't do anything to the clown mask, but I modified the Captain Kirk mask, made bigger eye holes because it was hard to see out of, for one thing. But also John had admonished me that we had better do something to it in case, who knows, the Captain Kirk mask people might come after us, So I started fooling around with it, pulled the sideburns off, and made the hair dark instead of, it was sort of blondish. And finally painted the whole thing refrigerator white. It was Krylon appliance white. And I thought, gee, this is getting weird. It's looking pretty strange. Might work. So went in the next morning to the production office, tried out the clown mask first. It might have been Barry Bernardi who was modeling. It wasn't you. I keep thinking it was you, because Nick, of course, became the shape. But at that time, it was a production assistant or somebody who modeled them for us. They came out with the clown mask, and it was like, ew, that's kind of weird. That's a little scary. And of course, scary clowns became a thing eventually. So it felt good to have one in your pocket to say, okay, if the other thing doesn't work, we've got one. But then the guy came out wearing the shape mask, and we just went, oh, fuck. That is the scariest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And to this day, I don't know what that is. It was lightning in a bottle. It was instantly, we knew no matter what else, before we had music, before we had actors, before we had the script, we knew that if we took a picture of that thing, that we'd have a scary movie. And it turned out to be the case. And of course, Nick flawlessly did the lurking and walking and standing and all that was required of the shape. And I stuck my head in the mask once in a while for, you can come over to my table and read the story of when I did the shape versus when Nick did it. But that's the story.
And obviously, William Shatner is like another legend that does a lot of these conventions. Does he
Good
ever?
sport, by the way.
That's
He has signed a few of these masks. So I keep hearing he's kind of an asshole, but at least where we're concerned, he's a very good sport.
I love it. Watching Nick wear his face, I'm glad he's a good sport. Nick, what was that like for you, the first time donning the mask, seeing yourself as the shape, and also obviously not having your face to emote? What was it like for you to have the physicality in the rest of your body?
You know, I didn't give it too much thought. I really was on the set as a favor from John because I wanted to experience a feature film from beginning to end, and he suggested, well, if you want to hang around, why don't you put this on and you'll be here and you'll get a few bucks. It just seemed like the perfect combination for me. So anything I came up with was very instinctual, and it certainly wasn't from any acting talent other than seeing horror movies when I was young and thinking this is what you have to do. So again, it's disappointing, I think, for fans to hear how offhanded it was, but it certainly was for me. The poor guys that in the future had to do Halloween for 2, 3, everything. They had the most problem because the first one worked so well. How do we get that magic? And of course, some of them asked me, and I said, just walk. And that was John's direction. At one point, when I realized we were going to see him full figure, I said, I'm walking across the street at night, what do you want out of this, John? Is he mechanical? And John was just so exasperated by the rest of the night's work, so, it's a difficult job to do, especially on that kind of budget and time. He just looked at me and said, Nick, just walk, come on. He didn't want to have any other problems that night.
Well, before we gloss over your talent too quickly, I'd like to point out that Nick's father was a famous choreographer, knew his way around dancing, and I think somehow he imbued you with a certain kind of gracefulness that is in your bones, because the way the shape moves is poetic, is truly scary, and it's not overdone. Does everybody notice that as the Halloween franchise goes on, there's like shape inflation? The guy gets bigger and taller and bigger and taller. It just goes on and on. We're ordinary sized guys, and it worked fine on film. But I think in subsequent pictures, the director or whoever was thinking about it, it's got to be, bigger than life. But sort of just walk over there and stand there and be menacing.
I don't know if it makes it even creepier for me now, knowing that it was just instinctual for you and you didn't have to act, but thank you for that. It was brilliant. So we're going to take some questions from you guys. So like I mentioned, we do have a microphone for whatever questions y'all have. Our first willing victim, what's your name, Brent?
Hi, my name's Larry. And this is for Tommy. I was wondering, when you got the job for Halloween 3 to direct that picture,
Yeah.
were you aware that it was going to go in a different direction before or after you got the job, and what were your feelings about that?
I took the job because it was going in a different direction. I actually had been slated to direct Halloween 2. I was kind of the obvious choice because I'd been pretty vitally involved in the first one. And I think Deborah Hill, the producer, I think she might have for a moment entertained notions of directing Halloween 2 herself, but in the end they asked me to. So I was on board in that role while the script was being written. And I knew exactly what I planned on doing because John had really hit his stride. This was John's third picture. And on his first picture, a student film with Dan O'Bannon, sort of all over the place, and comedic and, a completely different kind of movie. Assault on Precinct 13, his second movie, was, I think he was very much aware it was an urban Western, and he was kind of doing Howard Hawks, specifically Rio Bravo, for that movie. But by the third movie, John was starting to feel his Cheerios. He was starting to develop his own style and his own way of going about it. So I was just going to continue that and try to imitate what John had been doing. But unfortunately, for me, when John turned in the script, I just hated it. It was about hypodermic needles in eyeballs and stuff, and I was very proud of Halloween because we were old school. There's virtually no blood, no gore, no nothing in Halloween. It's a true classic horror movie. So I very reluctantly, after Halloween 2, after the script came, I just said, I can't. You guys deserve somebody who loves this and wants to do this and is eager and gung-ho. That's not me. I hate this movie. And so I said no, and was pleasantly surprised when they called me for Halloween 3. I think Joe Dante was on the show for a short while, but then he got something else, and they needed a director. Deborah called, said, how do you feel about directing Halloween 3? And she knew that if that was all it was going to be, I was going to say no. So she hastened to add, it's all new, it's all different. It's not about Jamie Lee, it's not about the shape, it's not the knife, it's completely different. I went, okay, let's go. And that's that.
Hey, what's your name?
Hi, I'm Aaron.
Hi, Aaron.
Hi. Welcome to Richmond. It's great to see you guys. I love the original Halloween film. My question is for Nick Castle. When you came back for Halloween 2018, did you give any tips to James Jude Courtney, who took over the shape for that film?
Actually, by the time I got there, they were already in production for a couple weeks. James kind of just came up with his own approach to the thing. He's told me since then that he watched the first one just to kind of get a feel for what I was doing, so it wouldn't be too far afoot. But he's a bigger guy. He's like 6'3", I think. Again, it's this inflation. Shape inflation. So no, maybe somewhat inspired by the look of the first one, but there was no discussion between the two of us on how to play it.
James, just walk.
Yeah, and I think he had more of a conversation with the director on any one or specific scene or not, or how to approach it. By the way, I think he does a wonderful job, and he's become a dear friend as well. So it's the perks of being part of this franchise. You meet new and wonderful people and talented people.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who's next? We got time for more questions, guys. Anybody? All right. Making their way down. Hey, what's your name?
Hi, my name's Matt. So my question is for Tommy. Has there been any developments on untangling the rights for Fright Night 2, or are the Menendez brothers still ruining it for everyone?
They're in the news. Have you noticed they're going to get a new trial? For those who don't know, Fright Night Part 2, just as we were on the verge of releasing the movie, our distributor, Jose Menendez was his name, was shotgunned to death along with his wife by their sons, Eric and Lyle Menendez. And in addition to ending the lives of these two people, they ended the life of my movie because the distribution got completely screwed up behind this murder. And it never has gotten really properly released. I do have good news, I think. a rumor is that the 4K version of Fright Night Part 2 is going to come out this winter from England, which would be nice because that movie, whether you like it or don't like it, is a beautiful film. It's well photographed by Mark Irwin and art directed by Dean Cheddar, and just a pleasure to look at in its full widescreen version. So my fingers are crossed that at last it'll get some sort of proper release. As for the Menendez brothers, I don't know. After all this time, maybe that all that money that they thought they were going to see, they killed their parents, but they made it. They thought they were fooling everybody into it being terrorists or something, so they were going to get all this money. But yeah, maybe they can refinance the release just to set things right.
You know, the Menendez brothers are just got a new. If it's a new trial, or
Yeah, they're gonna
they're back
get
in
a
the
new
news.
trial. Yeah,
And there
that's
may
what
be
I
some
said.
validity to it as far as, why the charges should have been manslaughter instead of first-degree murder.
There was a sordid backstory about child molestation and whatnot that may come out in a subsequent trial.
All right.
I have never known that.
That's crazy. All right. Hey, friend, what's your name?
That's crazy.
My name is Justin. I met two of you earlier today. Nick, I'll get you tomorrow, I promise. But my question for Tommy, if Season of the Witch had been successful, what other stories were planned for the anthology approach?
We didn't get that far. It was a great concept that I think we would have been fine had we done that concept right after Halloween. But once you did Halloween 2 and you had a Roman numeral 2, and then this Halloween 3 comes along with a Roman numeral 3, somehow or other we just dropped the ball and didn't recognize that the audience would be confused. We might have been okay had we done an elaborate ad campaign that said, this year, even though this says Roman numeral 3, this is something entirely different. But we didn't, nobody, the producers, me, the studio, the ad department, nobody figured that out. And so it had a ragged start. But I must say, after all these years, that it has a huge following, and the enthusiasm is incredible, and oh boy, does that feel good.
Yeah, thank you.
Good question. Hey, what's your name?
Hello, I'm Josh. How are y'all?
We're good.
Welcome to Richmond. I know that there's a lot of different timelines in the franchise, so for anyone on the panel, if you wanted to share what your favorite timeline is.
Meaning, I don't understand, timeline.
Like 2018, erased all the other sequels and started.
You mean what's your favorite sequel?
Sure,
No.
yeah.
Well, he means, for instance, there's a timeline which goes from 1 to 2, skips 3, as we know, goes to 4, 5, 6, and 7, or something like that.
Yeah.
And then David Gordon Green, when he decided to do 2018, decided that nothing was, he pretended like there were no sequels after the first one. So that's would be my answer. I like that. Well, I know a lot of people thought that and it also includes the fact that Michael is either the brother of Laurie or not the brother of Laurie. So I like the not the brother of Laurie angle, and so I kind of go with that timeline. And then the other timeline, of course, is the reimagining of Halloween by
Rob Zombie.
Rob Zombie. I'm sorry. That's what.
Yeah. I don't want to be too flippant about this, but I lost interest after the first 3. I can't keep up. I didn't watch any of the other movies except H2O. And it's so, I'm astonished at the enduring interest. I will say this, of what I know about the origins of it. John based his original story with Deborah on the notion that for this movie, for 2 hours, or 90 minutes really, a little bit under 90 minutes, this child, this young man, is pure evil. There is no Rob Zombie explanation of why he got this way, his tortured childhood stuff, you can unravel all the psychology. John was the opposite of that way of thinking, that there's evil exists, and he's coming after you, and he was always there, even when he was a little kid, and he up and kills his sister for no good goddamn reason. That's the timeline I'm kind of a fan of, is like, wait, that's scary, because that gets you back to primal notions of good and evil. It doesn't rely on explanations of psychology. That's pretty surefire simplicity too, and John is nothing if not a thinker in terms of simplicity. In the cutting room on Halloween, and I was in the cutting room on Assault on Precinct 13, Halloween, and then The Fog. And John's religion all along has been keep it simple, keep it simple. And I think there's some good magic in that.
Thank you.
Hey, what's your name?
My name is Daniel. I have a question for all three of you. I know that the internet has been abuzz with plans of a TV series since Trancas locked down those rights. Would any of you three be interested in being in that? Especially considering, me personally, I'm a fan of Halloween 3. I like the whole concept that it should have been an anthology that could have been based around the holiday. And if the TV show could incorporate that, specifically Mr. Wallace, would you be interested in being a part of that, as that was the original vision?
I always thought that was a brilliant idea, and was kind of shocked that there obviously the story of Michael Myers went on and on. And before he died, I had a conversation with Mustafa Akkad, who was the money behind Halloween. And I said, aren't you getting sick and tired of this? And he said, Michael Myers will never die. as long as there's money in it. But no, I think it was always a great idea. There must be a million stories you could tell about Halloween. And I hadn't heard that there was a possibility of some sort of series. But if it's truly an anthology and you've got a new tale, a new Halloween tale every time you turn on the program, that sounds fantastic.
Thank you.
Any other takes?
Well, I'm almost 100% sure that if they do a Halloween TV show, it will be a Michael Myers Halloween show. It's they're banking on what brings in the audience, and the audience for them especially, and for many of you, I'm sure, is Michael Myers, and they'll figure out a way to monetize old Michael. Now, how they do it, that's really the question. Are they going to do it with some respect for the original, or is it just to elongate the character's experience? I mean, I think I'd love to see. I don't know. I have no idea how they would approach it in that regard, but I can tell you right now, it's going to be Michael Myers.
If I had a chance, yes, I would love to be in the series. And if they could figure out a way to get a little bit of Season of the Witch in there, I would love that, because I actually love that film. It's one of my favorites.
Great questions. So we have a few minutes left, and then we're going to take a big group picture. But since this is the best time of the year, with Halloween approaching, I was just wondering if the three of y'all have any Halloween traditions.
Get as invisible as possible. No, you know, people have embraced that. Well, it's not really a holiday, is it? It's just, what do you call Halloween? Is it a holiday?
No.
No, not officially. It's certainly not you don't get to take off from work.
We should.
But yeah, maybe there's a national movement that should take place that says this needs to be a national holiday.
Start it today.
But people are they love to celebrate. And Alan Howarth, who did the music with John on, I don't think he was on Halloween, but he came along shortly thereafter, and certainly did on Halloween 3. Every year at Halloween, I mean, it got to be insane. It's like people have to top themselves. Okay, last year we got the giant skeleton that's on top of the house, but this year we need some sort of inflatable thing that goes, in the graveyard out front, honey, go get the tombstones. And it's unbelievable. I feel as though I just stand back and don't try. Because it's just so beyond me.
Sandy, any traditions?
The traditions I had as a kid were my favorite. I don't think I could replace them with anything, but all my sisters used to take me trick-or-treating, and they made my costume from scratch every year. So that, to me, are the great memories of Halloween. And my only regret is I don't see that as much today. It's just, trick-or-treating out of the trunks and stuff, not really going door to door to your neighbors and having your big sisters or brothers take you out. So to me, that was a tradition that I can no longer have, but I have it in my memories, and it's very special.
Nick, anything to add? If not, that's cool too.
You used to accommodate the holiday by being ready for kids at the door, but somehow my neighborhood dried up of young people, or maybe I killed them all. I'm not sure.
I think that's what it was.
And so unfortunately, the actual event itself, it goes nowhere at my house, and it's just like we have the light out, we have a few candies in case, but we haven't had a doorbell ring in about 3 or 4 years. It's kind of sad, but you drive around Los Angeles where I live, and in some of the other neighborhoods, it's just all a deck with so much fun. So it's still a great holiday, and I know some of the folks that worked on Halloween, the new ones, they're big on, like the guy that did the mask, Chris Nelson, you may know his name. His whole house is done. And our manager, Sean Clark, who is the agent for a lot of the people that you'll meet, he has his house all crazy. So it depends on the individual.
We got, everybody here knows about Peanuts, right? And Charlie Brown, and Lucy holds the football, and every year he goes to kick the football and she takes it away. I feel that way about the candy. Every year we get this big pile of candy, and about 7 people come by, like your place, and then there's all this candy, and it's like, I just don't have the self-control. So for November is that's kind of Halloween to me.
Well, I couldn't think of a better way to celebrate or start the celebration than with you guys. Thank you so much for being here this weekend. Thank you guys so much for coming to the panel. And if it's okay with y'all, we're going to take a big group picture.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, may I say, you guys are the greatest fans. It's been really eye-opening to come to these cons and feel the love. It's really sweet. Thank you.